A very good morning from Careers Infinite family. We're going to be talking to Miss Padma Srinath. She's an educational psychologist in India. A very good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview.
Thank you.
For our audience, could you tell us a little more about yourself, a bit about your experiences working with children?
Okay, let me tell you first that I'm a teacher by default. It was not the kind of chosen career that I thought I'd have. But sometimes you just happen to have an opportunity and you jump into a field, and then that becomes the pathway of your life. For me too, when I got my daughter admitted in a school, there was the headmistress there said, "We'll admit your daughter, but can you come and help another child?" And I said, "Can you help another child? In what way? What am I doing?" She said, "The child is cerebral palsied." The word only first opened my heart to empathy, and I said yes. But I realized I had absolutely no educational base to say yes, okay? So I did what I thought was the best I should do for the child. And that took me on to learning that I cannot look at teaching as what I have to deliver, whether it be a content that I think is important or whether I think it's a content that the school tells me that this is the content you have to deliver to a child and see that he gets this, whatever be the learning perspectives they have. I have to ensure that the child is with me and we build a relationship before I can use that. So the building of the relationship with young children takes place when you respect them as equals. You have to understand that. And that made me, go into the years of understanding that you can never reach a learning child if you do not understand that child.
So in your opinion, working with these children, do you think the personality development starts at a very early age, and how does a teacher handle that?
There are lots of theories which start off by saying personality development starts at birth.
Wow.
I do believe that the first step in a child's world is for him to trust his survival needs being fulfilled. So if I am using words like survival, trust, they're all hallmarks of a personality, isn't it?
Definitely.
So there goes, from the moment you're born, the building of the personality begins to operate.
Right. So in early childhood scenario, so when a child is admitted to school, so what in your opinion should be the teacher's role in helping develop that personality?
So I said that when a child is born, he wants to trust the atmosphere, to have his survival considerations in that space. Then his personality reckons that, yeah, I feel safe in this space. I know I will get my food when I ask for it. I know I will be kept warm. I know that my senses are asking for play and somebody is going to put something that my brain can engage with, etc., etc., etc. So when a child comes into a school, particularly before the age of 3, he revisits the need for trust. He's being put in a new circumstance. He is being put with a new adult. He is being put in a space that he is not familiar with.
Right.
And what is unfamiliar to a child always tightens his own senses to say, where do I seek my sense of safety? The human being, I think, is endowed with an intelligence for one critical reason, and that is to make sense of the world around him. The same is applied when he goes from the home, where he is the prince of ruling or princess of ruling, to a place where he is going to be equalized with 15, 20 other children. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy to perceive that I am one among, because if you know what sibling jealousy is, the child doesn't want to think I am one among. I am.
I should be special.
Yes. So you can imagine that the phase that a child starts a school is a very critical phase of reorganizing, again to use the a word from your own name, balancing oneself to the new opportunity. And that opportunity should be first trust based. I had a child, to give you an example. Her father was in the Gulf at the time when I was teaching. The mother was a lecturer in a college, and the household had grandparents. So there was an insecurity which I didn't know the story till this incident happened. This child entered the school and she was a very loving child. She would hold on to my sari, all that was there. But if the school bus was not parked outside her window, there was only one question for 3 hours. Will the bus come? Will I go home? Will the bus come? Will I go home? Every 5 minutes she had to be reassured, literally 5 minutes. So you can see what a toll it takes on, a teacher who's trying to impart something. So here I was when I started saying, I don't want that question again. I have told you, you have to believe me. Did you go home yesterday? Yes. Did you go home day first? Yes. The story ended over there. And one unfortunate day during that week, this little child, she came and she clung on to me as normal, and I decided at home before I went to school that that's the day I'm going to stop this as even the start of my day. So I told her, I'm not listening to the bus story. I have work to do, so I'm going away to my room and I will see you after the assembly. The kid obviously stood outside my door, which I didn't realize because I'd shut the door. And I came out, and here was this girl who put her hands on my blouse and dragged me down, only to tell me, do you know my grandfather died last night?
Oh.
And I was so shattered to know that I was the trusted one for her to share this debacle of her family, while I was not even giving her scaffold for her anxieties. The story was different after that. We became great friends because I started talking to her a great deal, befriending her and explaining to her. She saw me years later, she saw me 23 years later in a bus, and she gave me a hug and she said, when you hugged me, I said, oh, what a warm hug. And she said, when you hugged me when my tata died, I felt like that, she said. So you can see how you build trust. It's through a relationship. That's a big lesson in my life of why we need to build a relationship. Under all circumstances, without a relationship, you can't teach.
Could you talk about the research aspect of children and how you ensure that teachers know that children have a researching mind and that's important to be developed at a young age?
I think that in an era where I became a teacher, we took that as the career for the rest of our lives. So to me, if I did not research every batch of children who came to my class, in other words, if I did not research classroom experiences, I would have no other field to build my own personal research dimensions. So I believe that every teacher should research not her subject, but she should research the bunches of children who are in front of her. I think it offers a huge opportunity for studying minds.
Sure.
So I think that is one dimension of research where the teacher is the researcher of those minds. Coming to what children are, I am completely convinced that the early childhood phase from birth to about certainly 6 to 7 years is the age of curiosity and exploration as a combination. So what is research? Okay, research is identifying a question and seeking its manifestations in different situations or opportunities or realms or whatever it is, right?
Yes.
So here is a little child who holds a question. That's why we are called, in that age where the Mahashweta Devi, who wrote that book on the why girl, the girl who always asks why. Why is the stone like this? Why is the brinjal like that? Why did the flower open today and didn't open yesterday? Yesterday I wanted it for my hair, etc., etc. So the why in a human mind is seen in such a way that, I don't know about the West, but certainly in Indian scenarios is thwarted. Don't go on asking why. I tell you, do it, and that's it kind of response. More because I think there's an impatience and there's a probably non-engaging stance with the child, because the school does the engagement. It's very easy to see in households that you think the learning happens in a school. Okay, but I think the why is the beginning of a child's understanding of the world around him. So for a child, the world is a lab. What better research? What better research? So, and everything is a why. Why did the sun come out today? My son, when he was 5 years old, one day cried because the sun went down and he hadn't had a game of cricket with his father. Why? Because the father didn't get back from work. I said, but the son should wait, he says. Because father is an important person. He's got work, an answer he's heard from us. He can't just come when you want him to come. He applies that and he says, son, you don't have an office to go, so you better wait. You know, I realize that if you can engage with a child in a way that he is a researcher till he is 7, you would set them off by patterning their mind to raise questions, follow the question, sustain the question in their mind, and live life responding to the question.
So it definitely translates to how the child grows into an adult who can handle life situations in a way that they can analyze it and bring up solutions.
For one thing, I think what he builds, Shruti, very clearly is a sense of perception. Because when you hold a question, you're seeking an answer. You're not seeking an answer to written statements alone. You're seeking an answer through perception.
To understand.
Yes, the eureka moments will be several, that's one dimension.
Right.
The second dimension is research becomes a scientist's way of life at some point when he chooses it as his career. But here is a child beginning his way of life as a researcher. If we can sustain it, there will be a few, don't take to that approach in their lives for whatever reasons one might say. But there will be, the catchment area will be full of researching minds. I think India needs that desperately.
So certainly in any type of career, this kind of an attitude or an approach is going to help the child, right? It's not, since we're talking about research, it does not mean that only careers that involve research are important for children.
Shruti, life is research, right? Probably when I was 3 feet 6 inches old, I was the same Padma as I am today, right? I was called the same.
Right.
I was doing my thing, etc., etc. So between my 3 foot 6 inches to the 5 foot 1 inch that I am today, what has been the research? What have I found again and again and again? I might have found patterns, I might have found experiences, expressions, joys, sorrows, anguish, and that becomes my repertoire. So every life is a research. That's one dimension of life. The second dimension of research is that if you have a framework where you've been allowed to explore a question, you will have the dynamic of a subject or a problem solving scenario which you contribute. It enriches your life in any which way.
Certainly, yeah.
Right?
Right, definitely. And even in deciding one's career, or when it's in the 12th standard or the graduation time, when a child becomes an adult and has to choose what they're going to do for the rest of their lives, this forms the backbone of the way they think and the way they make decisions.
Okay, the two different questions, answers to this question. You're using the word think and when they decide, which means they're using data.
Right.
I've got 90% in physics or 25% in English, so will I choose this or that? Or the field is that, there are lots of physicists wanted, I'll get a job easily. Those are all parameters that you see which are very concrete, and you make a decision on the pathway. But research actually builds by sustaining a question, is what I told you, which is what the YY girl was all about. For sustaining a question in your mind, and that question not to become a worry but to remain in a format of researching, you need to align it with passion. Okay? So in your early childhood, you have a passion to understand a butterfly, how does it fly? It's the passion that is the thrust for the information, not the information that is asking you to see what is the reason.
Right.
That's a rationale which will come, outcome will be that. Once passion has been aligned with a thought pattern or a process, you can rekindle passion. And who doesn't agree that researchers have to have a passion? You can have rationale, the thinking, or the statements, or the statistics, or the findings, or the lab, results or answers. But if you didn't have the passion, you wouldn't have this plethora to get your answers.
Absolutely.
So, I'm saying early childhood permission for researching minds anchors a passion with that pattern of thinking, which you can use for humanity's good in later life. Whatever be the subject. So so when you come to the point of a decision, crossroad, finished my 12th grade and I need to make a decision on which way I will go, I think then it's very clear your passion will anchor the energy, and you will say, this is what I love most. And as anybody will tell you, do what you really like, where your heart is.
Yeah.
So,
and you wouldn't have to work a single day in your life.
Exactly.
We often hear that.
Einstein has said that. So you should know what you want, and that comes from a passion.
Definitely. So we will come to knowing what we want
Yes,
later
later.
point.
Okay.
Yes.
Sure.